I thought that was no, I'm thinking of TSN.
Yeah, that would be sports.
Sports,
Although
yeah.
you could probably do that too.
Yeah, no.
They could use some jingles in their music or in their background or whatever.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, just rolls.
Oh,
That's
nice.
great. It sounds good for guitar too, like just sort of in front of on an amp or something.
Yeah, I don't have I'm like Fred Flintstone. I don't have a cell phone or nothing like that. So
well, let's start with that.
All right.
Why not? You could if you wanted.
Oh, I definitely
It would
could.
make your life easier.
I was just on his cell phone for 20 minutes trying to sort of straighten out my Visa thing. They put a hold on my card, but I don't know. I'm not a gadget person, and I've been avoiding. Like I just got on Twitter like 3 weeks ago, but on my computer. But I was not interested. I got sort of talked into it. Now I'm on there, and it's fine, you know. But I just I have a home phone, you know, and I just feel. I don't know. I'm afraid of doing this all the time, you know. I see people like him, right? I'm afraid. No, but you have a job to do. I'm glad you. My wife has one, but I'm just, you know, because I'm at concerts, I'm really enjoying the show, and I look over and someone's, you know, I don't want to be that guy, you know. So
takes you out of the experience.
Yeah, and I don't know. I something about it stresses me out. The whole. I hate that every time your computer crashes, you got to get some new thing. You got to figure out how to work, and then your old things don't work with it, and they're not compatible with it anymore. And I guess I'm a Luddite, plain and simple. You know.
What about when it comes to instruments? I mean, this record's really stripped down, but in the past, like guitar pedals, are you a gadget guy when it comes to music? No, okay.
Not at all. And even guitars, like I'm not even a guitar guy. Like I have guitars, but I'm not interested in them. Like it's like, you know, a lot of people that just love guitars and, you know, the model number, you know, that stuff. I like the way they look and everything, but I don't. I did an interview for Guitar Magazine recently, and I was so useless to them. They're asking me about what mic did you use, and all. I have no idea, right? And you know, I've been working with a lot of great producers who obviously they know how to mic things, but you know, I did an Almost Evil once, and in his studio he had about 400 guitars, and I would just go around, depending on the song, I would just pick a guitar based on how it looked for the song, right?
That's interesting.
And because you can play it, any guitar you pick up, if you know how to play, you can make it sound good. I don't have to. I never use my guitars on my records, you know.
You never use your guitars on your records?
No, like unless the studio I'm going to doesn't have any guitars. But most studios will have like a stable of. Like Mitchell had maybe 6 guitars. I went down there. I have a Martin at home, and.
Does that come on the road with you, or do you have a different guitar that comes on the road?
I don't take that on the road. I have a Taylor that I've had since '95. And that's been my road guitar, and it's a great.
Just the one?
Just the one, yeah. It's a great live guitar because it stays in tune. It sounds good. You know, I remember when I first got it, I was on tour with Sarah McLachlan, and I was playing this crappy guitar. I don't want to say which brand it was, but everyone on her crew said, "Oh, you need to get a better guitar. That's like it sounds terrible." Like we did maybe 2 shows, and so my label. They'd ask, what kind of guitar do you want? And I was like, well, I remember playing a Taylor once at a record store, and so the next day they FedExed the Taylor to my gig, and it arrived literally like 50 minutes before my set. You know, and in a big box, you know, I had to unwrap it and everything, and then I took out my guitar, and it was in tune even, right? I walked on stage, and I've been playing it ever since, you know. I just plugged it in, and it doesn't have any, like, you know, graph on it. You know, it's just like you plug it in and you play it, and it's a lot. You know, it's very beat up now. It's been around the world so many times, but it's my baby. You know, it's the one I take with me everywhere.
But you don't write on it. That's just the tour. So you
No,
write on the Martin.
No, it's funny. I feel bad because when I'm not touring, it just sits in the case like sometimes 2 years, and I write mostly on piano. You know.
Okay.
And I'm a terrible piano.
It sounds like you're playing on the guitar on the record.
Oh, all good. Yeah. But I wrote. Yeah, I did write some on guitar for this record, but like my last 3 albums were all written on pianos. And then because I'm not a very good keyboardist, I have to, you know, jump it onto guitar when I'm in the studio and play it that way, you know. And Mitchell Froome is a great keyboardist, so I would never dare play keyboards in front of him. You know, it would just be insulting. So, and the main reason I write on piano is because you don't have to take it out of the case. It's always open. You know, when I'm at home, I just go and sit at the piano, and my Martin's hanging up, so I play that too. Yeah.
And inspiration usually hits you while you're sitting at the piano, or do you have an idea in mind when you sit down?
Yeah, it's usually I have an idea first.
You hear something in your head?
Yeah.
A melody or lyrics or?
Yeah, both. And I write a lot. Every morning I have a ritual I do. I call it my coffee walk, where I swim every morning. I didn't today because we had this, but I get up and I walk. I do this big walk. The pool's literally 2 minutes from my house, but I take this half-hour walk to get there. But I get a coffee, and usually I do a lot of writing when I'm doing that. Like sometimes, even in the swimming pool, I'll have a song idea or maybe a whole verse or something, and then I come home, and then I'll play the piano or pick up the guitar, But it's usually when I'm walking around or when I'm doing the dishes or something.
That's interesting, especially the swimming thing, because it's such a peaceful, solitary activity.
And it's a brainless thing too, right? Mm-hmm. So I go.
Your mind can wander.
I go back and forth, and I don't stop. And then so my mind is like thinking about stuff, and it's so boring swimming. So it's nice to have. Because I find it makes the time go fast, because all of a sudden it's a half hour, because I just swim for half an hour, but then it seems like no time is because I've been occupied in my head the whole time. So
What about the string arrangements on this record? How did those come about? I mean, they're lush, they're delicate, they're grandiose at times.
That's all Mitchell,
You didn't give him ideas or thoughts or anything?
No, because that's what he does. He's a producer arranger, and what happened was I wrote all the songs. I went and demoed the songs, which was just guitar and voice, all the demos, and I sent them to Mitchell, and Mitchell just based everything you hear on the demos, right? And he just did a record for Susanna Hoffs before me, and with all strings and everything like this, and he was telling me about it in L.A. before I gave him the songs, and I said, I got all these new songs that, to my ears, sound like they would really benefit from that approach, because I felt this was the songs I had seemed to me like a real singer-songwriter, but almost retro singer-songwriter stuff. It almost felt like stuff that Neil Diamond used to do, or, and I got excited about the idea of having all this other stuff going on, and I'd send him the demos, and he would send me these mock-ups, arrangements of what basically would be, he'd send my demo back to me, but they would have like synth strings and and fake things, just to give me an idea of what he had in mind. And everything I heard was great, because that's how they used to do it. They'd have a song, you'd go in, and the arranger would make an arrangement for it, and and it was people knew their place and they had their jobs, and I know how to write a song. I don't know how to do all that other stuff. Like, it's up to the producer to know what the bass and drums should be doing, or what. And not everything worked. There's some things I had issues with, and maybe this shouldn't come in here. Maybe and a lot of that stuff we worked out once we got into the studio. It's definitely a collaboration.
What about when it comes to putting other instruments on the record? You said something about. Yeah. I write it down. First time the bass and the drum parts were actually written.
Yeah.
Now, what does that mean?
Well, like Mitchell really had the songs mapped out. I mean, he knew the songs almost. It's weird because I made the demo, but I didn't listen to the demo. I recorded it and I sent it to him. But he lived with the demo for so long, so he had everything mapped out, like in his arrangements, what the bass, where the drums came in, and he wrote it all out because he didn't want just someone coming in there and
And that's how you typically worked over the years?
No. In the past, what we've done is Mitchell and I would get together and make arrangements, like together in a rehearsal space, and then we would demo our arrangements, and then we'd get in the studio with musicians and we'd play them. We'd play them usually a cassette. Back then it was cassette tapes of how the song was supposed to go, and they would all make their notes, what key it was in, what the chord changes were, and then the great musicians normally Mitchell would always bring in, or whatever producer that. So all it would take is, okay, that's how the song goes. You try it a couple times, and then okay, that sounds great. Everyone's and sometimes Mitchell might say, or I might say. Can you try this instead of this or whatever, and then you start recording, and usually after that point you get it usually 2 or 3 or 4 takes. You get a version that you can use, and but this album was different because Mitchell was so specific about what he wanted to hear, and and he just wanted to, he wanted it to sound pretty close to the demos, the mock-ups that he made, even to a fault, because like I would be playing a song and he'd stop me, he goes, "Oh no, you didn't do it that way on the demo," and I'd have to listen to the demo to hear, oh, maybe I waited a half a bar before I came in or something, and otherwise it wouldn't fit with his arrangement, So it was interesting, and and a lot of the songs were recorded, me just singing the song live with a percussionist, because the studio was small, and so the first week was just me and different drummers, and then the second week the bass player would come in, and they would have charts and they'd be playing their stuff. But that would change too, because sometimes, because they're human beings, they would, have this a cooler way of playing it than Mitchell had written, or maybe I would say, something like, can you do a run into the verse instead of just coming in cold, or could you? So there was like, it wasn't like totally rigid, but there was. It was nice to have like a guidelines, like a map to follow, and then and the musicians were good enough too that they were able to, it's one thing to have like a synth horn playing a part, but to have a real horn player with breath, and it really comes to life, So
I love how the French horn starts the record.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's like. I never saw that song going that way, and so when I heard, on the demo, but even before we had the real French horn player, it reminded me of like, you can't always get what you want, or something by the Stones, it had that concept. It just sounded, it just sounded kind of classic to me, so I just thought his arrangements were really appropriate, and, he's one of my favorite producers, and I think he really outdid himself in this record. So.
How are you going to tour with all the string arrangements?
Oh, I can't.
I was wondering how you're going to pull it off.
Well,
just you and a guitar, or
No, and I'm going to have my band, and so we haven't even rehearsed yet. So I'm interested to see how it's going to sound, because I've had strings and stuff on my other albums, and I've never been in a position to afford to do that live. But you just adjust, right? Like sometimes some of those parts can be played on guitar, like my guitar player with pedals and things, or the keyboardist, or sometimes the strings are replaced by back vocals, like oohs and ahs and things like that. You find a way to do it that works, but it's two separate things, I would love to be able to get on stage and have all those instruments and do, even if just one time, but it's not really realistic with the, that would be so expensive. So
union rates and everything,
yeah. So we're just, my band is great though, and we'll just find a way to play it, and it'll be fine,
Have you played Royal Albert Hall before, or is this going to be your first time?
It'll be my first time headlining it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
What does that feel like? That must be one hell of a trip.
It's crazy because I always dreamed to play Massey Hall, and I played it finally. Mm-hmm. But I never even dreamed of playing Royal Albert Hall because it just didn't seem possible, right? Like, why dream about, it's like dreaming about going to the moon or something, right? Like, it's not, I didn't see it happening. So when my agent told me that they had me penciled in to play there, I was like, are you sure? Like, if you think I can do it, And I'm still, I don't know, I don't think we're going to sell it out, but I hope we can get a good crowd,
I think you get a decent crowd, yeah.
I hope so. I mean, the last album did really well over there, and we started to play bigger venues. But this is definitely the biggest venue, and I hope. Yeah, I don't even want to even know about it until I walk out. I just want to walk out there and see that it's a good crowd.
Mm-hmm. Let's go through some of the songs on the record.
Okay.
Because I like a lot of them.
Thank you.
Where do I want to start? So Nowhere to Go, the opening track. You mentioned the French horn. I guess I'll put it in that section. So it's about the almost non-release of the last record.
Well, yeah, it was just how I was feeling when we started chopping the last record around in the States, because there had been a lot of interest for the album while we were making it. My manager kept getting calls from all these labels. They'd heard that I was working with Bob Rock, and so I was excited about that. And then when we started playing for people, nobody wanted it. We had all this rejection. People said it was too commercial or something. And I know, and I'd never had anyone say that about me before. And I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? For years they're telling me I'm not commercial. Now they're saying I'm too commercial. So it was just really frustrating. And then finally, we found a home, and it did really well. I mean, it didn't do so well in the States, but it did really well in Europe, and here it did quite well. But there was this, so nowhere to go. I was sort of, all the enthusiasm I had for making the record went out the window. And I remember just writing, I was trying to write a humorous song, there's nowhere to go but down, this sort of common expression. And just, so I wrote that song, and it made me feel better just writing it.
You find songwriting cathartic, therapeutic?
Yeah, well, that song was, especially because it just felt good. I'd be sitting on my front porch. For a while, that was like the first song I wrote for this album. And because it was my new song, I was playing it all the time. I was playing it on the porch, and I was working on it in my mind, and then it triggered these other songs, so yeah, and that's kind of what happens. Generally, there's a song that kicks it off, and then you find yourself in the middle of a whole batch of songs, and that's what happened.
Going back to what, similar chord structures or similar themes, or what do you mean by?
Well, it just seems to trigger.
Get the creativity going.
Yeah, it does. It's like because you're just living your life, but what happens is it makes you realize you're going through a phase, and maybe you're not even aware of it, and all of a sudden a song will come along, and it'll say something which will trigger another idea, and then another idea, and then before you know it, you're in the middle of like 10 or 12 songs, and you could tell that it's an album. That's why it bothers me when people say they don't care about albums anymore, because an album, it documents a certain phase in your life, and that's why albums, I think, are great. You're in a certain mood to hear a record, and maybe you put on Joni Mitchell Blue or something, or
Everyone goes to that one for some reason.
I don't know why I said that,
but I hear
and that's
that
not even my favorite Joni album. But that's when you think of great albums, you think of an album like that, or you think of Blood on the Tracks or anything like this.
Me, Myself, Wine talks about you listening to records.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, what are some of those records you put on while having a nice glass of wine?
Well, it depends on what I'm listening to at the time. Like, Phoebe Snow died last year or the year before, and I always liked her voice, but I never had any of her records. So I found her first album at the Nostalgia or whatever the record store is on Queen up there.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's awesome, Phoebe Snow. And then I just listened to that album over and over. It just became my favorite album. And
Did it influence the writing for this record?
No, not really.
Okay.
But maybe it will down the road. But I just thought. Actually, it did influence a new song that I wrote. Not so much the sound of the song, but just listening to her and how great she was as a singer, and she wrote all the songs, and great guitarist too. It kind of made me sad, because I was talking with the other journalist, but not to pick on anyone, but it's like we live in this time where you got people who go to big hockey arenas to see someone that maybe can't write a song or can't sing very well, or
really?
You know what I mean? And you wonder, and to make that sort of frustrates me a bit.
I have to talk to them from time to time.
Yeah, like why are people paying hundreds of dollars to see someone that maybe isn't even really singing when you go see them, and maybe I don't get it myself. And obviously maybe it's just this thing in the culture where people want to be where the spectacle is or where it's happening. Mm-hmm. But to hear someone like Phoebe Snow, who's so talented, like right at the source, like she's like singing great, and it's so free, and so I was listening to that album a lot, and just being really inspired by it, and also being a bit saddened by it as well, and so that's an album. I mean, but there were other albums. I mean, I was listening to. It's my favorite thing to do, right? When I have the house to myself, to put on records and to have a drink.
Any wine recommendations?
Do you
have a favorite wine?
Well, I'm not an expert, but I like red wine, and I started buying these Malbecs because I was in a restaurant once and I had one, and I don't even know what a Malbec is, but I started buying. I know they're from Argentina, so I just started buying exclusively Malbecs. And then recently, my band, at the end of my tour last year, they bought me a crate of wine. And it must have had about 20 bottles of wine, but all vintage wines from like Italy and different places. And every bottle we opened was like a new, like sensation. It's like, oh my God, this is incredible, and all of a sudden the Malbecs didn't taste as good to me anymore. So I really don't know about it. I know when I'm enjoying one, and I know when I'm not so much. So
does that influence writing?
Wine or alcohol?
Yeah. Like, does it change your writing? Does it change the way you would approach songwriting after a drink or two? Does it make it easier?
Yeah, it definitely makes it easy to go on stage. We drank an awful lot on the last tour. We drank too much, to be honest. Like, we on the way to the gig, during the gig, like before the gig, I found I could do that though. I found there was a few nights where I stood up to go on stage and I was like, oh, I shouldn't have had too much to drink. But most of the time I get on stage and it makes me feel less self-conscious. And I've got a lot of problems with that anyway, and made me feel, what alcohol tends to do is make people feel more charming or something, even though maybe it's all in your mind, right?
Sure.
It also make you feel more sloppy. I've been actually trying I took all November off of drinking, and that was good, and I've been pretty good ever since. So on this next tour, I'm going to see how it feels to not to do that before the show, But for writing when you've had a few drinks and it can sort of make you feel just more open or something. So, but I don't really write that much under the influence or anything. It's because I'm usually writing during the day when I'm at the swimming pool or something. So,
right. So I'm just thinking the smell of a new bottle or something like that.
Yeah, well, it definitely thinks, the idea of sitting at home with wine, you got your guitar. You would think that would be a really inspiring situation to be in to write a song, but then oftentimes, that's why I don't have a dictaphone either, because, people have dictaphones in case they get an idea, but my fear is if I had one, it would make the whole process self-conscious, and I would never have an idea. So to sit there, it's like these people that go on these retreats to write, I don't think I wouldn't write anything. I'd go somewhere and I would be waiting to write something, and I would probably just play other people's songs or something.
Do you know when a song's not for you and it's for someone else? Do you know right away, or does it?
Well, sometimes I've been asked. Sometimes I get asked to write a song for somebody else, and so I said that's a different part of the brain. You start imagining what their voice is like and what they might want to sing about, and I can do that. It's sort of a fun challenge. Sometimes I'll write a song for me that I think maybe I'm not the best person to sing it. Even on this album, I had a song called Snake Road that I
like Snake Road.
No, I like it too, but I didn't think I had the right voice for it. I felt like I wish I sounded like John Lennon or something. To have that the nasally, and to have that edge that I don't have in my voice. And I tried it in different keys because I wanted it to have a little more. And I like the way it turned out, but I just, I had a song called Whatever It Takes on a few albums ago that I was trying to write like a Bill Withers song, and I didn't feel I had the kind of right voice for it, So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
It needs a voice. Let's talk about Snake Road.
Yeah.
It's got, what did I write down? Roomy percussion, and like an Adam and Eve kind of story.
Yeah.
About the snake.
About temptation.
Where did that idea come from?
Well, it just came out of, again, a lot of the songs on this album are me looking back with some mixed feelings and regret and all that. Because I was I had a family before. I was a dad and in my 20s,
Family before? You still have kids?
No, I still have a family, but I was at one point where I was a dad. I'd come home to my kids, and I had my first wife and that, and then all of a sudden I got signed in my 30s, and then I was never home. So I had this one life before, and then all of a sudden I'm on the road all the time, and I got sucked into that whole life of doing all the stupid things you do on the road, and that ended badly. And so Snake Road was a bit about me, looking back on that with some humor, right? But also feeling not hoping not to have to put anybody through that again, or just trying to be a better person, but it's one of those. It's a theme, right? That's as old as Adam and Eve, right? The whole theme, right? Like temptation and all that is really strong, and then you mix alcohol and then low self-esteem and all that stuff into it, and And it's it's a weird way to live, right? And on one hand, it was my dream to make records and tour around the world, and then all of a sudden I'm doing that, and all the stuff that I've always read about is happening, and it just seemed, on one hand I felt lucky, and on the other hand I felt, wow, I'm just being a big cliche here, I'm just doing all the stupid things, and I didn't feel good about myself, so.
It's interesting that people, I don't know, as the industry has evolved, it's not the same kind of tours that it used to be. It's kind of like, it's a month John here, it's 3 weeks off, 3 weeks on, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, we still tour pretty full on. Like, like we pretty much toured, when my last album came out, we started touring in March, I think, and we didn't stop really until, we had a few little stops, but we didn't really stop until about April of the following year. Yeah, I mean, we took November and December off, but that's when I made this record, this new record.
Yeah, this record's fairly old, right?
I waited all year for it to come out.
Yeah.
But like I was in the middle of the tour, and Mitchell said he had all of November off if I wanted to make the record then, and so I just took that opportunity and went, and I was in LA for most of November and December, and then right after Christmas we went back on the road again till the spring. So but we generally, when we have an album, we'll tour. Like this album, it's just coming out, we'll be touring all year pretty much, on and off.
So you're in Toronto in March.
Yeah.
Little Canadian dates in March, and I guess you can some stuff in the fall too.
Yeah, in the summer, I think summer festivals, and we start February 19th, February 14th in Kirkland Lake, and then we go to Ireland, and then we start the European tour.
That's interesting.
Yeah, no, it's our first show, but it's like a winter carnival. Apparently I'm supposed to light the torch or something of the winter carnival. So
there you go.
Yeah, so and that'll be a good warm-up gig, because before that we have two rehearsals and that's it, and then we're on the road. So I hope in the two rehearsals we can get it together, So.
Before I let you, I did want to mention in Blind Eye, to the tunnel at the end of the light.
Yeah.
I love the reversal
of that
lyric.
Thanks.
When did that come to you? How did you decide that?
It was a happy accident when I was writing the song. I like that idea too. Originally I thought about calling the album Tunnel at the End of the Light, but then, anyway, but...
I like the title of the record though.
Yeah, me too.
I don't even know.
It's a play on words too.
Yeah, is that what it is? It's a play on words.
It's like Forever and Ever, but Endeavor.
Oh, I didn't even think of it. I was just thinking like the Ever.
Yeah, Forever Endeavor. I just thought songwriting is like a forever endeavor, because you're hoping to write songs that will be around when you're not, right? So, but no, I don't remember exactly the tone of the. I just remember writing the bridge of that song, and really happy that it turned out like that, because the line before, talking about the people who struggle in the night, because I guess again it went back to the feeling a bit dejected or rejected from my not being able to find a home for my record, and I was feeling like, I was feeling there was a light at the end of the tunnel, and then we got all this rejection, and then I thought, well, maybe there's a tunnel. That was the light making the record, and now there's this tunnel now, I have to go through. So
know when that good wordplay comes to you, and do you feel a sense of pride? Like, immediately, like a line like that, other writers will look at it and be like, no, he was thinking.
Yeah, well, I did like that line when I came up with it. Not every line, but yeah.
When those strokes of genius.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, you kind of get a good sense that, you just feel relieved, I really work hard on the lyrics. That's always been the hardest part for me. And with every album you get a little more, I'm a big fan of the old lyricists like Johnny Mercer and people like that. Those are the people I really admire, because the wordplay is really clever, and it's also like Cole Porter is like unbelievable, that the way, just the kind of like the innuendo. I find with a lot of pop music these days, it's either really stream of consciousness, you don't understand what anyone's going on about, or it's the opposite, where they're just bashing the stuff that it's not subtle, or it's not graceful. And I like music when it doesn't insult lyrics, when they don't insult your intelligence, when they're, you don't have to scratch your head wondering what they're going on about. So yeah, I work really hard on the lyrics, and yeah, when you get a line like that, or every one of these songs has a line or two in it that I'm really proud of, and also you want to say something that is true, right? You want to say something that, okay, I'm not I'm not like I've climbed the tallest mountain. I've like the Bono would sing about all this stuff. I never really liked those kind of lyrics. Because I'm listening to it going, no, you haven't done that. But because I like to keep things down on to ground level and be really. You know what I mean? Like just conversational and real. Even my favorite Dylan songs were the ones where he's like really straight and direct.
Well, that is Blood on the Tracks.
Yeah, or New Morning is one of my favorite Dylan albums, and Shot of Love is one of those underrated albums where every line in that record is like no nonsense, and it's really tough, and I love that.
Shot of Love. Where,
yeah, it's from '80.
I don't know the '80s too well.
Yeah, it's really it's probably my second favorite Dylan record, but it's like almost like something Lou Reed would have done. Like it's really, it's just very tough sounding to me, and I just like, it was during a sort of religious phase, but it's a really good album. But anyway, I like lyrics like that, and so, but it is the hardest part for me, and I just. Even when I'm in the studio at the last minute, I'm crossing out words and putting in one that sings better and putting in.
So how do you know when a song's done?
Well, after a while, you kind of have to let go of it. You kind of like, because sometimes I'll realize that maybe I could have sang it better or sort of said it better, but the record's already out. So maybe you change it when you're singing it live or something. But no, you get a sense that with a song that you said everything you wanted to say, and. I don't like to write long songs, so this is feeling okay. It's complete, it's concise. You just get a feeling that it's done, right? And sometimes working with a producer, the producer might say, "Oh, I think you should repeat the chorus here," or maybe he'll say it's too long or something. And that's what I look up to producers for, to help me with the structure of tunes. I do a lot of that myself now, but in the beginning, Mitchell Froome helped me out with that a lot. Like, sometimes I'd have a slow song, and he would say, "I think this will be better if it was sped up a bit, or in a different key or something." And that kind of advice is really important.
I had a Twitter question, speaking of Twitter.
Yeah, I'm new on Twitter. So,
we talked about that before.
Yeah.
What did he say? Artist you wish you could have written a song for, or someone you still want to write for?
Well, obviously a lot of those old writers, I like a lot of old music, so I would have loved to have written a song that Bing Crosby recorded, or Dusty Springfield, or the Carpenters, I would have loved to have had something, George Jones, or Sinatra even. Right now there's a song I've been writing, on this album there's a couple bonus tracks that I wrote with Don Black, and if you don't know Don Black, he's this legendary lyricist, English lyricist. He wrote To Sir With Love, Goldfinger, the song Ben by Michael Jackson. Yeah, he wrote that, Born Free, all these big songs. And so my publisher hooked us up, and we've written three tunes. But we were talking on the phone in England the other day, and this one song, Autumn Light, he goes, "Man, we got to get the song to Tony Bennett, And and I was like, yeah, but how do we get it to Tony Bennett? Because Tony Bennett's probably one of those guys that thinks nobody writes any good songs anymore, And so I asked my manager, "Can you get the song with Tony Bennett?" And because I think he would like it, but he's someone that would be great. Or Katie Lang did do one of my songs, but she's someone that her voice is so great. I'd love to write a whole album for her, But anyway, there's so many people.
Cool. 5 quick questions.
Yeah.
1 word answers.
Yeah.
Until we end every interview. Road or studio?
Road.
Lennon or McCartney?
Oh, this is hard. Lennon.
When you hear a song, what usually hits you first? Lyrics, melody, or rhythm?
Melody.
Song you've written you're most proud of? Is there one that sticks out?
Seem to recall.
And in 1 word, Ron Sexsmith.
1 word?
1 word.
Oh man. Awkward.
That's a good one. Thank you so much. That was a good time as you sat down.
Hey, Carrie.